Okay, we are live. Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Brad Anderson. I'm the Director of Education and Industry Outreach for eXp Realty International Corporation. And on my Hangout with me today, I have the president of the company, Mr. Jason Gesing. Good morning, Jason.
Hey Brad, how are you this morning?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. How you doing?
Excellent, excellent. Couldn't be better.
So it's sunny here in California. What's the weather like where you're at?
Well, I was trying to position the camera so you could see the 8 inches of snow that fell yesterday. We're just coming off 2 consecutive snow days for my kids at school, and then one of them got sick yesterday. So it's been a little rough, but so far it's been a mild winter overall, and not too bad.
Nice, nice. I wanted to this is kind of a impromptu session, and so first of all, I just want to thank you for taking time to join me for this interview. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the model eXp Realty and just kind of an overview of the company. And the first question that I hear a lot from people is, what kind of things, what makes your model different? If I were to ask you what's the most compelling feature of the eXp model, what would you say to that?
Well, so eXp Realty has been around since October of 2009, and we've always had some features that have made us distinguishable from others in the industry. But I think if you were to ask me that question, I would say the most compelling aspect of the model is the fact that we're agent-owned. In October of 2013, we merged into a public company, and we did that so that the agents and the brokers could be the owners of the brokerage. And underlying that is the belief among everybody who's a part of eXp that the most valuable asset of any real estate brokerage is the agents and brokers who are part of it. They're the ones who are driving the relationships. They're the ones who produce the revenues. And so it makes sense in our mind that the agents and brokers be the owners of the brokerage. And so at eXp they are. Now that manifests itself in a number of ways. Obviously there's the actual equity piece and component, and I think we'll probably get into that in a little bit. But really what it does is it changes entirely the mindset and the approach to the business insofar as everybody in the organization really is an architect of what the company is going to look like going forward. And we have a number of different mechanisms where we really work hard to solicit and cultivate ideas that our agents have. And the very best ideas that we've had as a company are those which have been introduced by our agents. So they have a voice, they're active shareholders. And we find ourselves in an environment where we're celebrating each other's successes and not competing for them. And that's a pretty dynamic environment to work in.
Love it. We'll talk a little bit more about that. In your opinion, or in your terms, what is a cloud brokerage?
Well, it's distinct from a virtual brokerage, right? Virtual brokerage models have been around for a number of years, and I think in many cases they are the result of this desire to change the relationship between revenues and fixed expenses. A downturn in the economy, the impact of that relationship can be particularly pronounced, and it can squeeze out any and all profitability. So a cloud brokerage recognizes the cost savings that can come with being virtual. But I think what really differentiates us is that our agents and brokers have a place to go. They have a place to go and have the water cooler chats. They get training. They develop very close personal and professional relationships with staff, with other agents, irrespective of where they're located. So our cloud campus, for instance, has amphitheaters. It has rooms where we can do training sessions. It's got rooftops with tables and screens that you can share on. We have a mortgage company that's housed in there, and we've got 27 at the moment, very dedicated staff people who know our agents by name. And so unlike a strictly virtual experience where you're maybe sending paperwork to somebody whose name you don't know and you're never going to meet, these are real people, real relationships, and there's a whole lot of collaboration that goes on inside.
I know you've evolved to where the company is today. Can you give a little bit of history behind eXp and where you've come from and where we are as a company today?
Sure, and I want to be perfectly clear about one thing. This is the brainchild. eXp is the brainchild of Glenn Sanford, and I joined the company in March of 2010, and I really joined because of Glenn. The business model made all of the sense in the world to me, in part because what I had been doing previously, but Glenn is not only enormously bright, but he's very, very approachable, very modest, and really serves as a mentor, business partner, and friend to anybody who wants to tap into his knowledge base. It's phenomenal. And so we have evolved. Back in 2010, I think we were in 5 states. We weren't in the eastern half of the U.S. Today, we're in 34 states. We've got a good number of agents. Our growth year over year has been fantastic. And I think agent ownership drives a lot of that. But our campus as well has evolved. I talked about the campus and the amphitheaters. I mean, we all, show up each day as avatars, and the avatars resemble our likeness. We can sort of dress however we'd like, but that's how we work. That's how we sit across from one another. And so I mentioned earlier, the company was launched in October of 2009 as eXp Realty LLC, which was the successor to a company called Buyer Tours Realty, which was a traditional brokerage model. It had all of the fixed costs associated with traditional brokerage. It had rent, it had camp charges, it had utilities, it had staff, it had telephone systems, it had people to answer the telephones, it had magazine subscriptions, photocopiers, toners. And then when the market imploded in 2008 and sellers couldn't sell, buyers couldn't get financing, and a lot of people found themselves underwater, Glenn recognized then that in 2008 the technology existed where you could have all of the collaboration, all of the socialization, all of the training, all of the support, all of the mentorship that you would find in a traditional office, except now you could pull people in from wherever they might be located. And so agents in California could learn from and share with agents in Massachusetts, and distance all of a sudden didn't matter. Boundaries became immaterial. They didn't impact anything. And so we've been operating that way ever since, and certainly the campus has evolved, and we've had different iterations of it. A couple of big, I think, points in time for us were some mentions in the Swanepoel Trends Report. And for anybody who is familiar with Stefan Swanepoel, they recognize that he really is regarded widely as the foremost authority on real estate trends, a visionary, and has been following these things for a number of decades. And we were mentioned for the first time in the 2011 report as one of a handful of companies that had recognized the way in which the industry had shifted, both from the consumer standpoint and technology. So that was fantastic. And then 2 years later, in the 2013 report, there was a chapter talking about the real estate office of the future. And it laid out several different examples for brokerage owners who wanted to remain in the business and wanted to be profitable going forward. One of them was what was called the big box model, and the large physical footprint, put a lot of great people in there with a terrific culture. And there was an industry example that was given, the largest brokerage model in the country today, Keller Williams. And on the retail side, there was an analogy drawn, I think it was Target Superstores. And then the second model that was highlighted was the cafe style model. Right. And that was a smaller physical footprint, right? It wasn't as dependent on the bricks and mortar. There weren't desks that were necessarily assigned to anybody, but it was a drop-in space. It provided that locus for people to meet with others. But even then, as the brokerage owner, you're still tied to that location, and you draw from a talent pool that's maybe 30 miles around it. And then the third option was the pure cloud option. And eXp Realty was mentioned and held out as the only pure cloud play. And on the retail side, there was an analogy drawn between our company and Amazon.com. So that was a significant moment for us. Glenn has been mentioned and included in the list of the 100 most influential people in real estate by Inman News. He's been for 3 consecutive years listed in the Swanepoel Power 200. And of course, the big moment for us, I think, was in October 2013 when we became a public company, paving the way for agent ownership.
I'm actually sharing that slide now, Amazon slide here. I just thought I'd throw that up on the screen.
Yeah, I see it. And that slide in particular, I mean, it's really representative of a shift that we've seen in a number of different industries, right? So, Circuit City is no more. Radio Shack is no more. And what has taken hold and what has really started to, resonate with consumers is online purchases. And, we think that the same opportunities exist within services industries, and we think we're doing to real estate what, in some respects, Amazon has done to books and records.
I'll go ahead and stop sharing that so I can get you back up here. The other question I had is, we're growing in just unbelievable ways. Can you discuss just a little bit about the growth and expansion of the company?
Well, I think what we've seen, in particular, is that, leadership really drives growth. And so if you look at the markets where we're growing most rapidly, if you look at our company as a whole, we've been very fortunate to attract great leaders. Way back in 2010, when we first introduced a broker in North Carolina named Tom Somerville and Marion Stafford, who were RE/MAX brokerage owners, members of the Hall of Fame for the local board in the Greensboro Triad region, all the way to last year when we announced that Gene Frederick had joined us, and he was responsible for more growth than anybody, and I think it was 4 out of the last 10 years at a large company. So we've really been able to attract very, very credible leaders in the marketplace, and that in turn attracts the attention of good agents. We're not for everybody. I mean, we're really for agents that are entrepreneurial, who really recognize the value that they add to the experience. They recognize that they are the asset, they're the key, and they want to build a business that is in alignment with that belief.
That was actually my next question, is what kind of people is the company looking to attract, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's people who are predominantly really committed to the business as a whole. They really want to turn it into something special. So when we develop, for instance, a WordPress website for somebody and we host it for them, they own it. That's their asset, right? From the beginning, we've taught techniques on how you can leverage it, how you can have it show up organically and generate business for you. But that in and of itself becomes one asset within the business. Right. Another asset within the business is revenue sharing, right? Having a revenue sharing piece to your business that helps you diversify your income a little bit. That's another piece of the business that you're building, and certainly the brand. And I think if we were able to share some of the images of some branding that we've done for our agents, I mean, again, back to agent ownership, we said at the beginning that the most valuable asset of any brokerage is the agents and brokers who are part of it. Well, the branding ought to reflect that, and at eXp it does. So I think it's really people who are entrepreneurial, who see where the industry is going. They understand that the business isn't walking in the door anymore. They understand that people are starting their search for homes online 9 out of 10 times or more. And they understand that they need to figure out how to go out and get the business when it's out there, and how to add value to that consumer experience in new and innovative ways, because the information is no longer the commodity.
You know, and it's interesting you say that, because I had this conversation this morning in one of the sessions where we were talking about the traditional brokerage model. And it was actually, I mean, I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I think it was 1906, right after the earthquake, where that traditional, you know, hierarchy brokerage model was created. I think, and I don't, please, whoever's watching, don't hold me to this, I think it was Coldwell Banker. And the one thing that always amazes me is that, you know, you look back to that 1906 model, and that's, I think, back when they had horse and carriage. And so who would have ever thought, hey, what if one day there's this thing in the air called the internet? And what if one day people were able to take this mobile device in their pocket and attach to that invisible internet and really get anything from anyone at any time, anywhere on the planet? And so I always wondered why nobody ever looked at that traditional model and said, hey, maybe we should break it. And then I found out one man did. And just like you said earlier, that's the one man why I'm at this company, is Glenn Sanford. He did change the model. In that traditional model, I mean, do you look at this like a paradigm shift, or is this just common sense?
Well, I think it's common sense, and I can tell you a little bit of my experience. I mean, I've sort of lived through a period of my life where the cost of traditional offices, the staffing, the rent, you know, all of the different costs associated with it. We've been through them before already in this, but you know, they have a direct impact on the lives of the people who are working in those locations, right? You're either spending more hours at your desk to do work because you have to pay the bills. You're either charging your consumer more for the service that you're providing because you have to pay those bills. And if you can eliminate those costs and you can recognize the efficiencies that can be created with technology, now all of a sudden, an office that really isn't being used anyway, it can go away, and you can still have all of the benefits of an office in its place, but you can dramatically reduce your costs, and you can improve the lives of the people who are part of the business. In real estate, and in the eXp model, and we'll probably talk about this, I mean, because we use technology in the way that we do, it results in opportunities that otherwise we wouldn't be able to create for our agents. They get to work from anywhere, right? They get to network with people. I mean, imagine if you're in this business, and for anybody who's watching who's in the real estate space, but it's not just real estate. I mean, it applies to any profession. Imagine, if you would, that you could, without going anywhere and without spending a nickel, you could find very good people who you could call peers, who in this case you could call shareholders, and they could be 3,000 miles away, and nonetheless, every day you can log in and you could sit across a table from them and you can work on something together. Or imagine the opportunities that will create for your career. And I think that's the most exciting thing about what we're doing. You know, we're able to staff all of our transactions with a small group of extremely talented people on the transaction management side, where traditionally, to be in the number of states that we're in parts of Canada, you'd need to have, you'd probably have to have about 4 times the staffing that we do presently. So there's all sorts of efficiencies without compromising the interaction and the engagement. And it creates a lot of opportunity on the financial side, but also the opportunity to network with some of the very best people in business.
So in discussing some of these benefits of the cloud, I mean, you just shared some great examples of how you're using the cloud. Are there other benefits of this cloud brokerage? And I know we hear this from time to time, oh yeah, we're a virtual brokerage, but you've definitely defined the difference between what people refer to their company as being a virtual brokerage versus what we're talking about, an actual cloud, fully immersive, accessible via your computer, laptop, internet connection, where you're not limited to a local bricks and mortar location. You have access now to everybody locally, statewide, nationally, and even globally. Are there other benefits you see in addition to that regarding having this cloud brokerage model?
Well, apart from the business benefits, I think the people who are in this industry, and certainly, it's not without exception, but for the most part, there are people who like people. I mean, they like working with people. They like serving their consumers. They like working with other people in the business. They like learning. They like sharing. The generosity of people in this business in terms of what they know and their willingness to share it with other people, it's been remarkable to me from the very beginning, and I'm still so impressed by it. I think that, as the consumer has moved online, those work environments have become less and less vibrant. There's been less and less sharing because, now all of a sudden, again, you've got to go out and you've got to get business in different ways. I can't underscore enough just how much of a people organization we are. We've got an agent, for example, up in the Pacific Northwest who joined us, and we do all of our onboarding online, right? We do it in the cloud campus, avatar to avatar. And this agent, when he joined probably about 18 months ago or so, met for the very first time our agent services director, and she began to immerse him into the space. She taught him a few things, began to get him integrated into the systems, introduced him to a few people, and just based really just on the strength of that interaction, they developed a relationship in the cloud, and that relationship resulted in the agent going down to Las Vegas, which, by the way, is where our agent services department head is located physically. He came from Oregon to Las Vegas, and he played in the wedding of her daughter. And so those are the types of relationships that are built in there. I mean, we've got a tremendous controller, admin person in our office. Okay. And I've been working side by side with her, for almost 6 years now. And it wasn't until a year ago that I actually met her in person. Yet throughout that entire time, we would work on a daily basis, and there was a rhythm. I mean, we could really anticipate the needs of each other, and we were able to respond accordingly. And occasionally we get into a little bit of a squabble, but they're real relationships. And what we discover, Brad, is when we go to our live events, and each year we do a meeting of present and future agent owners, which is legally it's a shareholder meeting, right? But our shareholders are our agents. It's a great alignment.
I do want to talk a little bit about the education and the training. eXp's model, we have so much training and education. Can you just talk to that a little bit, and why there is no hidden agenda, no ulterior motive to get people to come in and learn? They don't register for anything. They can just come into this campus, this cloud environment. They can come away. They can meet you. They can talk to you and I like we are right now. They can learn things. What would you say to eXp's education and training that you're providing, not just to the folks that are with the company, but to the industry as a whole?
Yeah, well, that commitment starts at the top. And so from the very beginning, before I ever showed up, Glenn was adamant that we wanted to create a company where agents could learn, agents could share, and agents could collaborate. And so we've been, we've had a strong training calendar, education calendar from the very beginning. And we've had, agents, we've had people who, again, have been extremely generous with their time. And we've I think right now we're doing somewhere between 25 and 30 hours of live instruction each week, right? So these are real classroom settings. And if you have a question, you turn on your microphone, you ask the question, or you can raise your hand, you can put it in the text chat box, you can do it however you'd like. We share screens so you can go over your purchase and sale agreement language, or you can figure out how to create a marketing flyer, talk about lead generation strategies, listing appointments, whatever it might be. But we've been very fortunate to attract people who share that commitment. And I hope you don't mind, but a year ago now, you joined us back in January of 2015 as our Director of Education and Industry Outreach. And if you look at your career, this is a classic, a sterling example, really, of that commitment to education in terms of the people who are coming over to the organization. I mean, you built Active Rain University, Zillow Academy, a huge number of followers. Your entire career, as far as I can tell, and we've not known each other for all that long, but as far as I can tell, your entire career, everything you've done over the last 3 decades has been dedicated to helping agents build their business, adapt, be nimble, embrace tools that can help them. So that's your passion, and that's what you do. And I think we are fortunate enough to be able to attract people who share that passion. Vicky Bartholomew joined us last year in Houston. And I mean, if you look at her record, both in terms of the sales side of the business, her ability to grow organizations, her ability to develop mentor programs, and then you start to see what she's doing for us in terms of developing curricula specifically geared towards people who are at various points in their career. They might be, beginners, mid-level, high achievers, whatever it might be. She's writing that content. She's delivering new programs. And the nice thing about it is, right, we talk about the generosity of the people in the industry. You get an opportunity to see this. You may go someplace and you may meet somebody who, once a month teaches a class on a very specific topic, and but it's taught locally, right? Mm-hmm. With the campus, what really is going to start to happen, and it's starting already, is we're going to have professional development opportunities going on around the clock. And it will be from people who are located in Southern California, other parts of the globe, whatever it might be. And so all of a sudden now that person who teaches that narrow topic that's really valuable at the local level, now they've got a platform, they've got an audience, and they've got an opportunity to help other people as well. RE Tech Campus, you mentioned the ability for people to come in without regard to their affiliation. And that's important. It's been important to you. In many ways, you were the inspiration for the campus. And so we do have this RE Tech Campus site and initiative and blog, and it's a place where agents can come to and they can share ideas, they can learn things. We've got a number of guest speakers who come in, and just tremendous value there. And we welcome everybody into those. And we think that the industry's improvement as a whole, the opportunity for agents to add value to the consumer experience in new and innovative ways, that's something that benefits all of us. To the extent that we can share it widely.
We provide a lot of support systems. We actually have staff, and I know that we're going to get into talking a little bit about brokerage models and companies that might be looking at this model saying, well, I've worked a lot on this brand and I've spent a lot of money advertising and I don't want to lose that, but I want what you have. What kind of support systems and staff would you say we have in place that are going to help these agents and brokers that do come on board the company?
Yeah, so we've got transaction staff that are going to help you figure out where your commission is. They're going to help you get the commission disbursement authorization out. They're going to make sure that your file's complete along with your broker. We've got probably the best, in my opinion, and if not one of the best, web development and technology support groups in this industry, if not in any industry. I mean, just so they've got that unique ability among people who are technology oriented. They can communicate well too, and they can provide great customer service. And we measure that. We make sure that the agent has a good experience when they need tech support. But whether it's design ideas, web assistance, learning how to put some long tail search approaches into your marketing plan, whatever it might be, they are second to none, in my opinion.
I don't know that a lot of companies, and I'm saying this because I don't know, have the support systems, the staff, the tools, the products, the people. As you said in the very beginning, the people are one of the greatest resources in this company that support on every level. And so I wanted to talk to a little bit about, from the small to the medium brokerages out there that might be listening to this now. What would the opportunity be for me as a small, maybe a mom and pop boutique style brokerage, where I got my little office with my 8 agents, and is there an opportunity for me here?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most exciting opportunities that there is within the model. So you mentioned it, right? So you can start to think about what would it look like if an agent could walk into your traditional office and on demand find the tech guy, and if the tech guy was working with somebody else, go find the other tech person. What would that cost? What would have to be involved there? When we talk about systems and tools and different technologies that can help agents with their business, what does it take to invest in those? And what kind of knowledge base does it take to even know what it is that you're supposed to be investing in? Because there's a million different things to choose from. So part of what our team does is they go out there and they assess different things as they're released. They evaluate different opportunities on the tech side and tool side, and they make recommendations, and those are the things that we implement. So what does that cost, right? And we mentioned when we talked about the 3 different models in the Swanepoel report, anytime you're fixed as a brokerage owner to a location, you're tied to a location, there is a limit to how big you can get, right? And so if you can imagine freeing yourself from that, And all of a sudden now you plug into a system where all the training is there, all of the tools are there, all of that credibility that you've built up over the course of your career as a brokerage owner. Now you can take that and you can leverage it in other markets. You can move into the state next door, start building your team across state lines. You don't have to go and get your broker's license. You don't have to review the contracts. You don't have to manage the trust account. You don't have to go out and make sure that everybody's trained properly. You can just plug your people into that system. And even in your own state now, all of a sudden, if you're a brokerage owner and you could relieve yourself of those things that you don't particularly enjoy, whether that's the file review, whether that's making sure that everybody's in compliance, whatever it might be, the things that you wish you could dispense with, those are things you can dispense with within the eXp Realty model. And we've got some great examples of brokerage owners who have leveraged the model very, very effectively. Our managing broker in Atlanta, for instance, had an independent shop with 17 agents. Joined us back in 2013, late in the year. Today, I think he's got more than 200 people in his organization, and that organization now extends into Texas. It extends into other states in addition to just Georgia, where he's got a very strong presence, and he's starting to move into the coastal areas of the state and outside of Atlanta. So that's a pretty strong opportunity, and so it's really the chance to scale and grow in a way that you otherwise can't, because your physical footprint limits your ability to do so. And the nice thing about the model is that all of our agents effectively are standing in the shoes of brokerage owners, because they can do the very same thing. They can go out and build an organization that really doesn't know any geographic limits, provided we're in the market.
So really what you're doing is you're able to reduce the overhead costs, the operating costs, and still give that broker the resources, the people, the tools, the services, and the staffing to actually do more with less, because they don't have the cost, the operating cost, that overhead, that they can remove that. Now, what about the company that's like, let's say I've spent the last 5 years really building up my brand. I've spent a lot of money in advertising. Could I keep that brand? Could I keep that, all that effort that went into that, or do I just have to throw that all away and start brand new at eXp?
No, that's where the value is, right? Again, coming back to agent ownership, the value is in the agent, and in this case, in this example, the value is in the broker. And so that's a brand. If there's value there, particularly on the local level, and when we start talking about expanding the team and expanding the organization, the value of that brand probably diminishes when you get 300 miles away from your local marketplace. But particularly locally, that brand is important, and that's the brand that really ought to be highlighted. And our team is really devoted to trying to find ways to augment that brand, to take it one step further and really turn it into an asset. So yeah, there's absolutely that opportunity. The other thing I want to say about this for brokerage owners, remember we said at the beginning when we were talking about the history of the company, the model was conceived of by Glenn back when there was an economic downturn, right? When profitability was elusive, it was getting squeezed out because revenues weren't coming in, but those fixed costs weren't going away. There's a lot of talk today and periodically about the next downturn and when is it going to happen. And nobody ever wishes for that. Nobody wants it to happen. But I think when it does happen, because of the way we were created and sort of the economic conditions that underlie the creation of the company, I think we're in a position to sort of extend ourselves and offer an opportunity to owners who might otherwise find themselves struggling to remain in the business.
That's an excellent point, and it reminded me as you were saying that, Jason, that I'm looking at us now doing this live feed through a technology and the internet. You're halfway across the U.S. And I remember the very first time I met with Glenn Sanford, and I got to go through the virtual tour in 2009 when he had just closed the bricks and mortar and started the cloud brokerage. And I got to do an interview. We didn't have Google Hangouts. We didn't have live stream YouTube. I mean, it was only 2009, but we just didn't have the tools. And I love that we're able to incorporate new tools, new technologies. What other tools and services does eXp offer agents and brokers to help them succeed? Meaning, products, softwares. I know there's a couple you probably want to mention.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. One of them that really has been popular with our agents, which is the key to the whole thing, right? How's it going to work for our agents, has been conversion. Lead generation, lead nurturing, web IDX, pay-per-click combination platform. You ask Ryan Hightower, somebody who grew his team from 0 to 22 in 6 months and who's closing a transaction pretty much on an average 1 per day, I think, around the year, 365 days a year. You look at somebody who produces at that high level, who generates, I think, 16,000 leads a month or something. I mean, you ask him why he's at eXp, and he's going to talk about conversion, because we embrace the same tools to which he attributes much of his success and his team's success. So that's a really popular one. It's been a great product for us, and our agents love it. The other one, which is really important and really is in alignment with some of what we do, is a product called Real Satisfied, so that our agents go out, and when a transaction is closed, they can send a survey to their customer, and they can find out where they were strong, where they could have improved, and they can take testimonials if they want, and take some of that feedback, and they can propagate it, and they can use it. Making sure that the customer is satisfied with their experience in any business is priority number one, and so we make that tool available as well. SkySlope is our transaction management platform, and it's fantastic. It's got a modern interface, allows for digital signature. You can fax into the file, you can email into the file. We use premium Google applications. We use Voxer, a free application on your smartphone. We use that to communicate with one another at all times of the day. It's a great tool. So we're always looking at different tools and systems that are going to help our agents. And I think among our agent base, both collectively and right down to the very last person, there is a willingness, I think, among our agents, an extraordinary willingness to take a look at new things, even if they've never heard of them before, even if they seem a little bit foreign, even if they're a little bit scary, and give them a shot and see if there's a way to use them. And I think that creates a great environment.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a shameless plug, because being involved with education for all these years, I'm really excited to let everybody on the call know that we also have added continuing education and even licensing in some states right through our cloud environment. So that's pretty exciting. One of the things, and I don't think people understand this, you mentioned conversion. And conversion, if you were to go to the site today and just, as an agent or as a broker and say, I want to sign up for this, I think their startup cost is $395 to set it up. And then they charge an additional $395 each month to run that program. I know Breakthrough Broker has I think they're free, but like Real Satisfied, $99 a month, $309. So by the time you start adding up SkySlope and Breakthrough Broker and continuing education and conversion, we're looking at literally hundreds of dollars a month that you're providing to agents for a very nominal fee, which we'll talk about when we get into the fee structure. Right. But I mean, there's a lot that I noticed that we didn't even get to talk about. And so I know there's plenty of slide presentations and eXp Explained sessions out there where anybody can go in and kind of see what tools and services we offer. I just did one this morning called eXp Tools for Success. So we'll make sure people get a copy of that so we don't have to dive too deeply into the different products and tools and services. But what I will say about those tools, Jason, is that the company and being part of the leadership, I'm really proud that we take the time, we do the due diligence, we really research the products and the services that we incorporate into the company on a national level so that we know that they are good tools, they're proven, and not only, and I'm gonna tout the company's horn here a little bit, because it's one thing to bring me on and offer me these services. It's another thing to let my brokerage come over. It's another thing to give me the product, this conversion site. But then wait a minute, you're not only going to give me the product, you're going to teach me, train me, and show me how to be successful in it. And that's where I think there's this gap where, sure, you can give anybody top producer, you could hand conversion to any agent in the country, but if you don't take it to the end point, which is how do I use this, where do I use this, what works and what doesn't, can you hold my hand through the process, all of those things we offer. And I think that is a key component to, you can have all these great tools and services, but if you don't have somebody showing you how to use them, people who have used them successfully, then what is the point? I'll probably never use the product.
Right. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
I have a couple of other questions, and I am going to follow the chat in case anybody's popping in here live with us and wants to ask questions. They're probably going to be coming in, and I'll monitor that on the side. So you mentioned lead generation. Lead generation, as far back as I go and can remember, Jason, lead generation is the universal language of this industry. It's lead cultivation, it's lead capture, it's lead conversion, it's generating leads, whether they're online, outbound, inbound, advertising. Can you tell me a little bit about your program called Making It Rain? I really want people to know about this because I think this is a fabulous tool. It's a huge cost savings, and they can compete with these big portals.
Well, I think it's helpful to have a little bit more context in terms of the company's commitment to lead generation. I mean, Glenn got into the business because back in 2000 he understood how to generate online leads well before most people did, and he really was incentivized to get into the business because of that knowledge and experience. And he was a phenomenal success at generating online leads. I mean, we've held top-ranking websites in major metropolitan areas, since as long as I've been with the company. And there's always been this commitment to at least teaching the agents how to generate the leads, right? And we've got examples of agents who've done it very effectively. It takes time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes patience, it takes retooling and changing your approach from time to time. And now, of course, we have conversion, and so we've got a system that really helps agents go ahead and generate leads on their own. But then there's this segment of the agent population who, whatever the tools are, whatever the training is, effectively their time is best spent out in the field, and so they're not going to really run the campaigns and put that time in, and that's okay. But you're not the only one. We're not the only folks who recognize that leads are the lifeblood of the business. And so what has happened is you've got third parties now who are out there and who are generating leads and selling those leads in the form of subscriptions. Oftentimes they are priced in a way where the return on investment is not what someone would want or expect given the cost of buy-in. I know you have some experience with this, Brad. You know people who have signed up for subscription plans with third-party data aggregators where they've paid tens of thousands of dollars per month. And I think Glenn, his exposure to the pricing structure and sort of how these leads are shared among multiple people within zip codes and that sort of thing, he really came to the conclusion last year that was a bit onerous for the agent, if not exploitative, and decided that we could do lead generation. We could run lead generation campaigns on behalf of our agents. We could lower the effective cost per lead significantly. And so today we've got our average cost per lead down to somewhere between $7 and $14 per lead. Our agents who participate in making it rain, they can do so for as little as $100 a month. They go up to $500 a month if they want. But the important thing is they're their leads. They're exclusive leads to them. They're not having to race to the phone to jump on a lead, faster than 3 other people who are in the same marketplace who are also receiving the lead. So they're their leads and they're quality leads. And so we do that for our agents, and we've got some pretty exciting results thus far. And there's a lot of enthusiasm around the program.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the gentlemen and within our company who he committed to the first, I think it was 90 days. It was $100 minimum per month. He invested $300 into the program within the first 90 days, and at that point had a $19,000 commission justifying his $300 cost. I don't know what the ROI is on $300 and making $19,000 into your bank account, but the program definitely works. So let's say, I need a space. Obviously, I can walk into any of my title company affiliates that are here in the local market. I work with a lot of lenders. I can go into my lender's conference room. Shoot, I can meet at a Denny's or a Starbucks. But what about the person that says, I just need a physical office for the afternoon. I need a space to go. What do you offer to all your agents and brokers nationally and internationally when they run into a situation like that?
Yeah. So we a couple of years ago now, we entered into an agreement, and I believe we were the first company to enter into a national agreement, our first national company to enter into an agreement with the folks over at Regis Office Centers. And if you're not familiar with Regis, you can check them out at regis.com, REGUS. But it's Class A office space all the way. It's they've got thousands of locations across the globe, numerous locations in each major metro area and beyond, and they're growing all the time. But everybody who joins eXp Realty, they have the opportunity to go to any Regis office location anywhere in the world, and they just present a card that they're issued upon joining, and that card will allow them to use any of the business lounges at no cost. And the business lounges themselves, they vary from location to location, but they're great spaces. They're oftentimes completely unoccupied. You can go in, you can get a cup of coffee, you can make a photocopy, you can make phone calls, you can meet a client. It's a great resource, and it's available to folks. But here's the other thing about it. In Regis, there are other independent business owners who are there. There might be engineers, they might be architects, they might be mortgage professionals. They could be anything. And what that does is it puts you right in the middle of a group of people who serve as a source of business for you. You get to know, you develop relationships with them, and you're able to get referrals as a result. And I think that stands in stark contrast to being in a traditional office with a bunch of real estate agents who are all looking around for the same exact thing you are. So Regis has been a great value add for our folks. It's a great program, and we're really proud of that relationship.
It's actually, they're really nice. It's a really nice facility too. I had the chance, I've looked in the Bay Area here for some of the Regis centers, and even if you go to their website, I did share a little screenshot just a moment ago. There's an 800 number. You can go to their site and see where they're located. But I see most productive agents that understand this model are actually out with the consumer. They're using that mobile device. They're in front of the customer, in the customer's home, showing the home. And again, if they're not, they're typically in their own home, trying to have a life. And so,
right.
Can we go over, is it okay if we go over like the cost, what it would cost to join, set up, all that kind of stuff?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I'll do my best. The slides might be a bit more all-encompassing than I will rattle off here, but I will tell you, we start talking about the efficiencies, the cost savings in terms of how we approach the office, the way we work, in the cloud, and the benefits of that. And here's where you really start to see the tangible economic benefits making their way through to the agent. So importantly, I think we ought to start with the income opportunity. And so everybody who joins eXp starts out at an 80-20 split in their favor. So they keep 80% of the commission on every deal that they do until they've paid in $16,000 in company commission dollar. That's what we refer to as our cap. And if you look among national brokerages, I think it's probably one of the lowest company caps of any national brokerage. It's consistent across all markets. We're not a franchise, so there's no franchise fee, there's no desk fee. And once the agent achieves that $16,000 in company commission dollar, which equates to $80,000 in gross commission income, 20% of that equals the $16,000, then they go into what we call cap status. Now, cap status at eXp is 100% less a $250 transaction fee that kicks in at that point on cap transactions for the first 20 cap transactions, and then it gets reduced to $75. In addition, there's a $25 broker review fee on every transaction. There's a $30 errors and omissions insurance fee on every transaction. It's slightly higher in some markets. California, I believe, is $40. And then in addition, there is on the first transaction of each year, we take out prior to the split $420 in eXp University tuition. And really, that's a piece that allows us to continue to develop the curricula. It allows us to have the resources to go out and bring in the guest speakers, but that's on the first transaction each year. Now, to join, the buy-in, the barrier to entry at eXp is $99, and that includes your first monthly technology fee. The monthly technology fee is $50 per month, but let's put that in perspective, right? You talked about the cost of conversion, $395 to set up, $395 a month thereafter, access to any Regis office location in the world, premium Google applications, the $99 per month Real Satisfied account, all included for free, breakthrough broker. So all of that is included in the $50 per month technology fee. Also, as part of that initial $99, you're going to get your business cards, you're going to get your presentation folders. So that's really the fee structure and sort of the benefits that come with it. We really think that for the level of engagement, for the level of interaction, for the level of support, for the tools that you get, it's a very, very low fee structure.
We also have something that, and I made some notes here that I got really excited about because I don't know that anybody offers this unique opportunity. I haven't seen it really with any other brokerage. So I want you to talk to the revenue share model that, as far as I know, and again, it's just what I know, this is my own personal knowledge, there is no other company in the real estate space that has a revenue share model, anything like eXp's.
Yeah, well, that last part is the key, right there. I mean, there are other companies that have revenue sharing. There are companies that have profit sharing. The distinction is a big one, by the way. Profit, of course, comes after all expenses have been deducted. Revenue comes before you deduct anything. And so, again, it's really an example of opportunity created by the smart use of technology. Our costs are low enough that we are able to have a revenue sharing model that's as aggressive as it is. And I don't know if this would be one of those instances where if we had a slide, I could put it up.
I do. Let me, okay. Yeah, let me grab this. I've got a slide I think that will be good that you can use.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. I see it there. So I'll just sort of talk you through this a little bit. But I always like to start in the center column on this. It says active personally recruited agents, FLQR. That stands for frontline qualifying recruits, right? And then on each side of that column, is a percentage. And on the right of the column there, you see exponential share, which is a percentage of gross commission, 3.5%, 3.8, 2.4, so on and so forth. Just immediately left of center, you see the expansion share column, which is a smaller set of numbers, 0.2%, 0.1, 0.1. I think it adds up to 1.5% in the aggregate. And so the question becomes, if we go back to the center column, how many people do I need to introduce directly into eXp Realty in order to qualify for the larger percentage, the exponential share on the right-hand side? And from the very beginning, it's true 5 years ago, it's true today, and it'll be true tomorrow. The answer is just one, right? So by way of example, if I introduce you, Brad, and you do a transaction and the gross commission income on that transaction is $10,000, I, as the person who attracted you into the company, I'm going to earn 3.5% of the gross commission, or in this case, $350. And that's going to be true every time you do a transaction until you cap. And so if we take it one step further, let's then say that you go ahead and you introduce Billy. I don't know who Billy is, but let's just say you introduce Billy. Billy does a transaction. You're going to get the 3.5% of Billy's gross commission. I'm going to get, as your sponsor, 0.2%, that expansion share number, left of center, level 2, 0.2% of Billy's gross commission income, unless, in addition to you, Brad, I've introduced Mo, Larry, Curly, Sally, and now I've introduced 5 or more people, right? So back to the center column. How many people do I need to introduce at level 2 in order to qualify for the larger share? And the answer is 5 or more. So in the example I just gave, now that I've introduced 5 or more people directly, Billy goes out and does that transaction. You're getting the 3.5%. I'm getting the 0.2 of expansion share, but now I'm also unlocking the 3.8% of exponential share, so for a total of 4%. So if Billy's transaction yields a $10,000 gross commission, then I am going to get 4% or $400 on that, and that's going to be true every time Billy does a transaction, or anytime anybody else at the second level who may have been introduced by you or Mo or Larry or Curly does a transaction. So that's really how the chart works, and you can continue the thought process down right through the 7th layer there. You can see for folks who bring in 40 people directly. Now that could take a year. It could take somebody 3 months. It could take 10 years for somebody else, and it may never happen for somebody, right? I mean, there's varying degrees of, to which people are interested in this piece. But if you hit that number, then you're realizing a full 5% off of the gross commission income of activity done 7 levels below. And so you start to think about scaling an organization, right? And then you start to put it in contrast. You say, okay, I'm running a 95.5 shop for a large franchisee, right? And I make my money in one of 2 ways. I collect desk fees, and then I make 4% on the transaction. Well, here we've got the model. Again, the agent stands in the shoes of the owner. They don't have to collect the desk fees. They're not tied to any geographic limit. They can go out and they can build a team anywhere that they'd like, and they're going to pick up 5%, 3.5%, 4%, depending upon where the activity occurs, without any of the headaches associated with it. So it's a pretty lucrative opportunity. I can tell you today, we got people who are making 5 figures per month on this piece, people who are making obviously significantly less, and everywhere in between. But I can tell you this, going forward, I am very confident that we will be developing or helping agents develop a business over the next 3 to 5 years, and a component of that business is going to be a recurring annual revenue stream that is in the 6 figures, and in some cases in the 7 figures. It's that powerful, and it's a direct result of our utilization of technology to keep costs down and engagement high.
I love it. And so as I'm looking at the screen here, I just want to share with somebody who might be looking at it saying, well, I kind of understand. So what you're saying is, if I just introduce that one person, no matter how many people join under that person, I will always collect everything on the 7th level on the left-hand column, the 0.2, the 0.1, the 0.1, just by bringing in that one person.
Right.
But
that's correct.
Okay, so but to unlock the right side, so here I am. You introduce me. I'm the one guy, and I introduce my wife. My wife joins as an agent or my neighbor, and now I have 2, 3, 4, and then when I get to 5 people, I'm still going to be collecting that left share, the expansion share, but now I've unlocked the second level, which is the exponential share, and that's what the green side is, the total of both the expansion share with the exponential share, showing me now if I had 5 people under me in my first line, now I'm going to be collecting the full 4% on everybody on the second line transaction and 3.5% off of the first line. The other thing that I think a lot of people forget is that, no, this does not mean you're going to collect that off every transaction the rest of their life. It's only until they cap, because what happens is, on an 80-20 split, you're talking about, once they pay in the 80,000 GCI, well, now that agent goes to 100% commission, and that's a huge value. I mean, the ability to cap at 16K and go to 100% commission. Honest to goodness, I talked to an agent 2 weeks ago who's on a 60-40 split with no ability to cap or ever get to 70-30. And so while we look at this as an opportunity for future passive income and revenue sharing, as I like to call it, a retirement and an exit strategy plan, you are able to increase your income just as a working agent or broker, just in the commission, just going to 100% commission. I think that's very powerful.
Well, and so, one thing that might be helpful, and I don't have the numbers all the way down through 7 levels, but perhaps you do, but, if we put it in whole numbers, right, so people are looking at these percentages and trying to figure out the math, every capper that somebody introduces into, there we go, that's helpful right there. So every capper somebody introduces directly into the company is going to be worth $2,800 per year in revenue sharing per annum. So, and then second level production, again, if you sort of satisfy that second column, that middle column there with width, if you're 5 wide and somebody comes in at your second level as a capper, they're going to be worth $3,200 per year to you, and you can follow it down. I mean, these are real whole numbers, and I think they're probably a little bit easier to digest. But that's what we're talking about here.
So let's run through a couple scenarios. I've got a slide I'm going to throw up, Jason, to share with everybody now, and it's a slide that kind of goes through the revenue share calculator, which we'll share with everybody how they can get access to this and kind of plug in their own numbers. Could you run through this revenue share scenario just to kind of give a
Sure. So looking at it, right, so we have some what we're called revenue estimates at the top. And by the way, people who are interested in this, they can go to join.exprealty.com, and there's a calculator there. You can put in assumptions that are as aggressive as you'd like or as conservative as you'd like. It doesn't matter to us. But if you look at the revenue estimates, what we've asked at the top, we say, okay, in your organization, right, across all 7 levels, on average, how many transactions per year will those agents close? And so we put in an assumption here of 12, and we've said that on average, those 12 transactions for everybody they're going to convey at a price of about $250,000, and then on average, the commission will be about 2.5% on those. And so in the first example here, then we go below the line and we say, okay, so if we personally introduce 10, and each of those 10 introduce 2, so that's 20 agents, and each of those introduce 2. Now all of a sudden, if everybody is doing 12 transactions a year, 250,000, 2.5%, that's going to be worth to the sponsor at the top. That's going to be worth $161,250 on a recurring annual basis, assuming the assumptions stay the same and the performance stays the same. And I can tell you, the numbers they get really large.
Yeah, let's share a slide. Let me show. So in this it seems large, but I happen to know a few people within the company. I'm going to share this next one. I know you think this is extreme, but this is very real and it's very doable. Can you kind of run through these numbers if you would?
Yeah, so here I think the approach is the same, right? So we've got the same revenue estimates up top, but we're just talking about a significantly larger number of agents. And keep in mind here, as far as I can see from the graphic, we're only talking about the first 3 levels here. So
correct.
Perhaps, but so 20 agents directly, each of whom introduce 5, and then in the aggregate, all of those introduce 5 people. I mean, that's a lot of agents. Yes. But I can tell you, particularly as we gain traction, given the growth that we've had and given the excitement that surrounds the company, some of the attention that we're getting and the leaders that are coming, I don't think it's, beyond realistic to think that people, as you say, who are just engaging in the business, who are holding an open house, who are closing a transaction, I think it's reasonable to think that you're going to come across somebody who's going to start asking you questions about the company. So it's not much of a stretch. And sometimes I like to just say, forget all of this with the calendar, calculator and how many people, right? Let's just say that you're in the business and you're located here in Massachusetts, like I am, and you've got a cousin. You don't have any interest in attracting anybody. You don't want to recruit anybody. It's not your thing. You just want the tools. You want conversion. You want the mobility. You like the split. You like the fact that you can work from anywhere, and you love being able to network with people regardless of where they're located. But you do have a cousin in the business who's out in your neck of the woods, right? Out in California, and it was on that 60-40 split, no chance of ever getting to 70-30, doesn't have the systems that are going to help generate business. And all of a sudden you just say to your cousin, hey, look what I've got going on here. And she decides to join and she caps. I mean, that's worth $2,800 a year. I mean, $2,800 a year is a lot of money. That in and of itself, I mean, that's going to go a long way towards paying your cable bill. It's going to be a number of car payments for most of us. It's going to be a mortgage payment. It's going to be a vacation. So, even for those who, might shy away from this otherwise, there's an opportunity here just to have some significant income just by being in the business and being excited about the opportunity to be with eXp and with a great group of peers.
I also want to make sure people understand that because when that person does cap and they do, you do receive up to that 2,800 total for them for the year once they cap. That's not it. It's not like that's a bonus signing and that's all you get. The next year, everything starts over, and this goes on continually year after year after year, as long as both people are still in the business and active in good standing and with the company and fully vested. This continues on for the life of those people. Is that correct?
Yeah, as long as there's activity continuing in your organization, even after you maybe step away from the business, we have a 3-year vesting period. And so once you've been with the company for 3 years continuously in good standing, then you vest in your revenue sharing, except to say that if you ultimately go work for a competitor, that exponential share goes away. So, but it's a 3-year vest, and you mentioned retirement, and I don't think the revenue sharing piece is it. We're talking about the opportunity as a whole and what that creates. But retirement has long been the Gordian knot of the industry. Difficult to untie. It's a real challenge for people, whether they like it or not. We all face the reality that one day we're going to wake up and we're not going to be able to do as much as we did the year before. And we've got standards of living to maintain. We've got to pay our taxes. We've got to pay our bills. We've got to buy gifts for our loved ones. And it can be very difficult to save for that day when you're no longer doing what you're doing today. And so I think in combination, and not just the revenue sharing, but the stock piece, I think there really is an opportunity here. There really is a hope for those to be able to live comfortably once they step away from the business.
I want to talk a little bit about that. How can agents, because for me personally, and many of the agents and the brokers and people that I get the opportunity and blessing to talk to literally every day, Jason, in the cloud, agent ownership is a huge piece of this model. And I want you to be able to, if you don't mind, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but if you could share with the audience how agents and brokers can actually build their ownership interest in eXp and actually earn shares.
Yeah. So it's there's a number of different ways, and the one that probably is worth mentioning most and first is that agents just have to be in the business and do things that they're going to do anyway in order to earn shares. So, for instance, somebody joins us, does their first transaction, they're going to get 100 shares of stock, subject again to 3-year vesting. If they cap, they're going to get shares of stock. If they bring somebody else on board, they're going to get shares of stock. So just by being part of the company and being committed to your business, you're going to start to build an equity stake in the company, and you're not going to have to do anything extraordinary for it. And then we've got some other programs too. I mentioned earlier, we're not a franchise operation. We're a single company, single cap. So if you're building a team, you don't have to go and negotiate caps with different locations. But what that also means is that there's no royalty. There is no franchise fee. And so people who are accustomed to paying 5%, 6%, 7% in a franchise fee, they no longer have to do that with eXp. But what they can do if they want to, and it's really purely elective, they can set aside 5% of their commission dollars towards the purchase of company stock at a 20% discount to market. So we've had that program in place now for the better part of a year. And in that way, it's really an opportunity, again, for agents to build their equity stake, build an asset that can help them in retirement, but also help them today as we continue to grow and do good things. And if we do our job well, that's going to be worth something of significance in the not too distant future.
You had mentioned a little bit ago, and I want to make sure everybody's clear on this. You had said that I could actually take 5% of my commission. So I get paid my full commission. I take 5% of that commission right off the top. I can buy EXPI stock, but you said at a 20% discount. Is that over a certain period of time, like the 30-month rolling average, or how does that determine what 20% off of?
Average of the past 30 trading days. So we take that average price and then we reduce it by 20%, and that's how it's calculated. Now those shares, unlike the ones that you mentioned where you might get over Scott trade or something, Those shares are issued directly by the company from Treasury, so there's a 6-month holding period, meaning that the person who has those shares needs to hold them for 6 months before they can then have legends removed and get them deposited.
Gotcha. There's a lot of great stuff. First of all, I just want to say thanks again for taking time to do this with me, because I in a year I haven't had the chance to really sit down and have this type of an interview with you. And there's so many people I wanted to share this with, and I wanted to pull you aside and say, Jason, would you just sit with this person for an hour, and would you talk to this person? And even when I saw you in San Diego, when I saw you in Washington, I saw you at the eXp convention in Las Vegas, and it's just I just remember you and Gene and I went to lunch. I was like, can I just clone you? And so I really think this is valuable to folks who may be interested in wondering, who is eXp? What's this whole eXp thing? Why are these people? Why are top agents joining eXp? And so I really appreciate you doing this.
Listen, first of all, I want to tell you, you're the only person who would ever has indicated, even remotely, that they would like to clone me. I could stack them up in terms of people who do not want to clone me.
Don't start with your wife. Come on.
I'm about to go pick 2 of them up right now. They don't know cloning. But I do want to say one other thing, if I could, and it's really important.
Sure.
We have a tool. I talked at the beginning about agent ownership and the mindset of that, and soliciting ideas of our agents. The very best ideas of our agents are the ones that are the best ideas for the company, and they're the ones that we implement. Starting last year in January, same time you joined, we started to issue a survey every quarter that's based on the Net Promoter System methodology. It's a very simple survey, and it just asks each of our agents in a formal structure, in addition to all the formal feedback, informal feedback we get, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend eXp to somebody else in the business? And I just want to tell you that is reflective of making sure that, above all else, our customers are happy with their experience. Our customers are the agents. Our shareholders are the agents. And in a lot of public companies, there is no alignment between the two, right? Your customer is different from your shareholder base. Here, they're one and the same. And so, we take that survey very, very seriously. We get a lot of great ideas that come out in that survey, and we take action in response. It's why we have the transaction management platform that we have today. It's why our agents have access to a dashboard that lets them know how many shares they've purchased under the 5% set-aside option. So it's vitally important, but I want to mention it because it really, I think, underscores as much as anything else the company's commitment to being agent-owned and making sure that no matter how big we get, going forward, that we're always listening to the voices of our agents, who are also our shareholders. So I just wanted to mention that, and it's something I feel strongly about, and I know you do too. So thanks for letting me do this. I really appreciate it.
Just real quick, do you have time? I know you got to run, but do you have time to just share maybe one success story of somebody or something within the company that first comes to mind?
Boy, there are just so many. Ian's a great example. I talked about him. I like that story you told me about Chris. Well, Chris is somebody I've known for a number of years. He's here in Massachusetts. Engineering background. He was an engineer, plastics engineer, I believe, for a number of years. And there he is. And I think here it's a success story because it's an example of somebody being able to get in the business and do really, really well in the business. Chris himself might achieve icon status this year, but he was part-time initially. While having his engineering job, and we talked about some of the trainings that used to go on about how agents could generate leads on their own before there was conversion, before there was making it rain. Chris would sit in those classes. He would watch the recordings of them. He'd watch them over and over again, and then he would be up until 2 o'clock in the morning, using the approaches that were suggested. And he has been phenomenally successful. I can tell you, he's certainly, I think the income is well in excess of what he was making as an engineer, and he's happy, and he's in a business that perhaps he never thought he would be in, because he maybe didn't sort of see himself as a salesperson. He's a great guy. He's a tremendous contributor to the culture. He's always coming up with ideas. He's as sharp as they come. He loves the business, and he's really starting to expand now. He's got assistants coming on board. And so to me, that's a great story for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that I know him personally and have known his wife actually since I was 3 years old. So I love that story.
So before you run, if somebody has an interest, they want to maybe look a little bit deeper, they want to look into possibly joining the company or apply and see if they're right for the company and the culture, where would you recommend that they go?
Well, there's a couple of places. The first is if you're looking really to take ownership of your business and your brokerage, you can go to join.exprealty.com. There's some additional information there, as well as an opportunity to submit a questionnaire to get the application process started. I think for those who might be looking for more information about the public company, eXp Realty International Corporation, trading under the symbol EXPI, they can go to investors.exprealty.com. And then we've got a pretty solid and compelling consumer-facing website as well, and that's found at exprealty.com. We're now in over 80 different MLS markets across the country, and so we've got some of the most accurate and up-to-date information available anywhere relative to market activity in the markets that we serve.
Jason, it's been an absolute honor and privilege to not only spend this time with you today, but to serve with you, leading this company to its destination, whatever that final destination will be. I just want to say thank you very much for spending time, and it's awesome to watch the growth, and that's even more exciting to be able to witness the successes that you and many others are having with eXp. So thank you so much.
Well, you're a big part of it, Brad, and I really appreciate your energy, and you really have a tireless commitment in terms of helping agents improve and build their businesses, and it's reflected in our culture, and so can't say enough about the contributions you've made. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll do this again.
Okay. You bet.
Thanks, Jason. Bye-bye.